Terence Bud Crawford reportedly has about 2 or 3 fights left. Some people are speculating that he will retire. I'll give you my thoughts in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, Terence Crawford defeated Canelo Alvarez, and that was a good name for him on his particular resume. His resume lacks compelling names outside of Canelo and Errol Spence. Let's just put it that way. So this was a good win for him. I thought he performed. He dealt with all the pressure, the added weight, the moving up multiple weight classes, and he made Canelo look kind of foolish at points, and he stood his ground. So it was a very good performance from Terence Crawford. Now the world wants to know what's next. Does he fight on, or does he choose to pick this as a stopping point? Guys like Andre Ward avenged the Kovalev controversy and decided to retire on a high note. Like, I just knocked out Kovalev. This is a crowning moment. I've been in the game for a while. And then Andre Ward used that moment and then retired. So the question is, what's next for Crawford? And for me, it's a bit multi-layered, and it's kind of a confusing topic. Let me explain. Here's why. When you perform like he did with Canelo Alvarez, judging from the performance and the shape that he got into, things like that, it's not really a reason to retire. Meaning, you weren't like beat up, you didn't get hurt. I mean, there was a cut, so I don't know if that'll affect his career, but he got a cut over his eye. But there was no like seemingly major damage by moving up all this weight. So you definitely have options, and the greedy boxing fan in us all probably wants to see the journey continue, since you look fresh. Even though you're 38, you still look formidable. You still are undefeated and hard to beat. However, the reason why I said it gets tricky is, on one note, you're like, he didn't take no punishment for real. He should be able to fight on. However, the reason I said it's tricky is because now you've already shot for the moon with the Canelo fight. Literally, there's no one in boxing that you can fight that's really reasonable that can top that. A Canelo rematch, I literally don't want to see one. That is a waste of time and another money grab. I didn't even want to see the first fight. So after Crawford won convincingly, I think it's just stupid, because I come from an era where rematches occurred when they needed to occur. Now we have rematches and the health of the game to move on from this one fight, and at best revisit a rematch years down the line or something, and people will still force it and try to turn everything into an immediate rematch scenario. And there's no point to it. It's kind of like Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia, right? Of course, that ended in a stoppage, unlike the Canelo fight. But Tank and Ryan Garcia, they could fight in the future, but an immediate rematch made absolutely no sense because of the fashion in which Gervonta Davis won. It doesn't make sense to run that back, even though you made a lot of money and everybody involved made a lot of money, right? It don't make no sense to run it back. So you could be like, oh, hey, it's the best money fight that we can make for each other, and just force it to run it back. But I think the numbers will show if Terence Crawford fights Canelo again, I think you'll see an increased dip. Because keep in mind, Canelo Crawford was not built up great. It was not a fight where it didn't feel like other super fights. We'll put it that way, right? And I'm talking about up to fight week. It didn't feel like anything. And it kind of came and went, and it didn't really even get talked about as long as other super fights. Like when Tank knocked out Ryan Garcia, this was a continued conversation for weeks out. Ryan was saying that he got hurt in sparring. People were talking about what's next for Tank. People were talking about Tank and Shakur or whatever. Like there were conversations being had. But with this is two fighters kind of in the last chapter of their career, Canelo and Crawford. Crawford prevails, and there's not much to talk about based on what we've seen in the fight. Canelo looked old. He looked horrible. He had no jab. He does not look like the same fighter. He's not putting punches in combination, and Crawford beat him. That's really it. There was no like extenuated drama or anything else. So I don't really know where Crawford goes from here because there's no options that can trump the Canelo fight, right? Pay scale in terms of somebody more popular, right? I don't really see realistic options for him. So now everybody else is going to be dangerous guys for less than what you just received. So what do you do, in those situations? What do you do? Do you continue fighting on because you're fresh enough to do it? And then you could end up losing to somebody who was lower on the totem pole than a Canelo Alvarez or an Errol Spence. And you're going to make less money. So I don't know. It kind of feels like the vibe I'm getting right now, and I'm not telling Crawford what to do. I'm not his daddy. I'm just giving you my opinion. But it kind of feels like this would be a good stopping point for your career in terms of retiring. Because as a fighter, you've already accomplished 3x undisputed. And it's going to be exponential. See, and I don't want to get too deep off into it because then people will say I'm hating, but it's the reality. Crawford lucked out because he was able to fall into situations where he, at the last minute, is able to fight one person to become undisputed, which, again, that's not the same as running through champion after champion to collect belts, right? You still did it. You still became undisputed, but it's not the same as like Usyk fighting qualified people after qualified people to be cruiserweight undisputed or to be heavyweight undisputed. Like literally the guy that knocked out Wilder, you almost knocked out Usyk in the first fight in round 9. Completely different. So everything to me for Crawford, if he continues, is kind of a backtrack. There's no one out there that's going to make you more money. There's no real need for a rematch in that particular fight. And I think even if they forced it and did a rematch, the numbers would show and suffer because how much better can Canelo get? What is he going to start jabbing all of a sudden? I mean, he had 12 rounds to start jabbing and he refused to do so. So I don't really understand what Canelo can do. He looked like he had a great camp. He was already the bigger person. Now you're letting Crawford develop at the weight. Crawford is older on paper, but younger as a fighter, given his resume and lack of compelling names, given the fact that he's been fighting one time a year, he's more preserved than a guy like Canelo. So I don't really see how Canelo improves here because you had all the experience, you had the fans on your side, pretty much everything was your way, and you still came up short. So that's my 2 cents. Crawford should probably retire. I don't know where he goes in terms of follow-up. And if you don't have a place to go, then you'll just be fighting for paychecks and fighting fights that are going to be less than what you just did. So it'll be, again, a backtrack. Let me know what you think.